I saw a clip recently from Kevin O'Leary who was asked, what's the most valuable job in the world to him?
Hmm.
And he said that 3 years ago, if you were to ask him that question, the answer would have been engineer. But if you ask him that today, his answer is a videographer. Because if you can find somebody who knows how to tell the story of your business through video, you're going to see a return on investment from that you wouldn't see from any other position that you could hire for right now.
I couldn't agree with that more. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Alex, and I am joined today by our good friend Jaeden from Move Mobility. He's the videographer there. Jaeden, welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Now, I'm really excited to talk about this because selfishly, I'm a video guy at my core, and I love talking about video. I love talking about tech and about gear and equipment and all the things, so I'm really excited to be talking with you too. So let's start things off. I think the best place to start, let's talk about Move Mobility first. Tell us a little bit about the company and what Move Mobility is all about.
Yeah, Smooth Mobility, it's a manufacturer of wheelchair accessible vans and mobile medical vans. So the way that we kind of describe it is we help people who help people. So a lot of the time, our clients aren't necessarily the end users of the product. So if we take a mobile medical unit, for instance, we could be making like a mobile vaccine clinic. Our clients are going to be a clinic or healthcare workers or like somebody within that space who's then taking our van and applying it in the real world and taking it out and providing vaccines to people or providing some type of medical care out in the field. So it's very interesting because a lot of the conversations that we have are with professionals and everything, but we don't never really get to hear as much about the people who get to benefit from the use of the vans as much.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very, very cool. And what attracted you to want to work there? Let's talk a little bit about how you joined the team and like what got you interested in doing what you do there.
Yeah, so I joined the team back in August, and I had been kind of looking for a change in career for a little while. But I was being really, really selective on where I was applying to and where I was willing to actually work. I was in a pretty stable position. I'd been working in social media and marketing for a while, so I wasn't in a rush to find something, and instead was looking for the right fit. And so I came across Move Mobility one day, and they were looking for a videographer. And as I kind of dived into what the company was and the work that they do, I became so instantly attracted to the company. I have people in my life who have mobility issues and
Oh,
could
wow.
use something like a wheelchair accessible van.
Hmm.
So having that connection and then knowing that I could be a part of something that's improving people's lives was like so amazing to me. And then for me to be able to get back behind the camera, which is something I hadn't been able to do as much for a little while, I knew it was going to be an amazing fit for me. I knew that I was going to be able to do something that actually made a difference. I am not a medical professional. I don't generally get to help people through their mobility issues or through their health issues. So being able to use the skill set that I do have to provide help in any way that I can was something that I couldn't turn down.
So it sounds like it's rewarding and you get to do what you love with being back behind the camera. That's awesome. That's like the dream scenario. So tell me about Move Mobility. Are you their first videographer? Have they had videographers before? What was that picture looking like?
Yeah, I am the first videographer that we've had. It was a very interesting start here because of that, where I kind of came in and nobody here really knew much about video. So nobody really knew what to expect or anything like that. There was no processes in place. There was no gear. There was no nothing. So I basically came in and it was like building something from the ground up, where I got to provide my list of gear that we were going to need. I got to work with people to kind of establish all the different parameters and everything that we would need. We actually just finished creating the video brand guidelines as well. So I'm literally taking this from scratch and building it up.
Wow.
And it's been really, I kind of like it that way, where I'm not coming in and following somebody else. I'm not having to follow old guidelines or anything. I get to kind of work with the team here to develop those ourselves and kind of be the voice of video within the company.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I agree. I like when you can start fresh and really set things up to your own liking into a way that you know is going to set you up for success. But for our viewers and for a lot of people out there and other videographers, they might be in organizations where, you know, budget's a factor or buy-in might be a factor from leadership. Did you have any struggles with like, hey, good equipment costs money, and does leadership understand that? And like, what did that look like? Were they into this and behind you, like getting the things and doing what you needed to do to be successful?
I think that's probably been one of the greatest things about working here is everybody's bought in, top to bottom. Um, Budget, like obviously everything costs a lot of money. It's a very high initial like cost to get going. But everybody's been bought in on it. Managers was super understanding of it, and they were willing to make that initial investment in order to set us up to be able to produce the best videos that we possibly can. And buy-in, not even just with management, but with everybody else around here, where I know sometimes some businesses can struggle where you might get a couple people that are super into the idea of video and they understand the value of it, but then nobody's willing to be on camera or nobody's really willing to help out with it. But luckily here at Move Mobility, like our entire sales team is constantly pitching ideas for us. They're constantly willing to be on camera for me. Everybody's totally bought in on the idea of video, and everybody kind of understands the value of it and where it is that we can take it as a whole team.
That's amazing. That's not always the case. So to have that must have really helped you along your journey. What would you say with having that support? How did that play into like your approach and what you could do and what that gave you the ability to do as far as like being creative and coming up with ideas and working with the rest of the sales team? What did that look like for you?
I think it helps so much where I'm not having to spend my time convincing people that this is something we should be doing. And instead, I get to spend my time focused more on the creative side of it and focused on whether it's generating ideas myself or leading brainstorming sessions with the sales team or whatever it might be. Just having everybody bought in and not having to spend, time every week reminding people why we're doing this or reminding people the value of it. And instead, most of my time gets to just be spent creatively and being given also a little bit of like freedom where I feel like if I was in a place where people were maybe not as bought in, especially through management, then there would probably be a lot more like somebody over my shoulder every hour going, okay, but why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Like, what's the value in that? And instead, because everybody understands the value, I have a little bit more creative freedom where I can go do my thing and then come back and be like, okay, this is what I created and this is what I think we can do with it. There's obviously checks and stops along the way, but I feel like it is a much more conducive environment for creating things like this.
Absolutely. That's great to hear. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the novel or fun or creative videos that you've made and worked with the sales team? Like I'm curious about like any videos that the sales team use or the marketing team uses to help drive business, and could you share some of those with us?
Yeah, so the big one that we're doing right now, I'm just kind of wrapping up all of our bio videos for the sales team right now. So that was a really interesting one because I think that when people think bio videos, they're generally a little bit boring. And,
Yep.
maybe you mention your favorite song or your favorite food or whatever it might be. And I'm going to be honest, nobody really cares about that part of it.
Right.
And so instead, the angle that we took was finding the why behind what our sales team is doing here. So in the same way that part of the reason that I got attracted to this job is because I have people in my life who benefit from things like this. Um, this Everybody on this team has a story that is very similar to that, and so I was able to kind of spend some time unlocking what those stories are with the team, and then their bio video is more centered around what's the reason that I do this, like what's my passion behind this, and why is it that I'm willing to wake up every day and try to provide help to people who need it the most. It's not a job for everybody. It's not a job that everybody could really enjoy. So the people who are here, they're here for a reason. And the angle that we took with our bio videos was that is, I think it's created some absolutely incredible videos. People have been super open with me, more open than I could have possibly expected. Um, and I'm really, really happy with like the way that those are all coming together. The other really exciting one that I got to do was we did a customer journey video where the more that I dove into the story behind it, the clinic in Joplin, Missouri, the bigger the story kept becoming. And I got to go down and film it. And then I ended up with like a 12-minute customer journey video that
Wow.
told this incredible story. But I then was able to take that and dissect it down into, I think I ended up with 20 to 30 like little clips of it, where I then take a little clip and I can give it to a salesperson who, if they have a client who has a question about like, how can this van actually help with rural healthcare? Well, I've got an expert in the field who specifically looks at the camera and says, this is how this van helped us in rural healthcare.
Nice.
And so one video all of a sudden turned into like all these different clips that the sales team is able to use across everything. And I think that, once again, like being able to do that and be able to show that kind of helps with the whole, okay, like this is a really good idea for us to be making these videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you can take a long form video that's already great and is based on real customer experiences, and then you can break it up and have it for different pieces and different questions in the sales process for your sales team. That's awesome. That's the what it's all about right there. And that is a good segue into my next question. So I have a stat here that says that in 2 days, in a 2-day span, you shot 65 videos. Am I reading that right? 65 in 2 days.
That
How did you do that? That's baffling to me. And I think most video professionals, if you told them that, would be like, nah, no way, dude. That's you can't be serious. But you did. So can you tell us a little bit about how you pulled that off? Because I think it plays into the fact that you're creating so much content that can be used in all these different ways, which is just exciting for me.
Yeah, that was actually 3 weeks after I started.
Okay.
That we had this big shoot date. So
they threw you right in the deep end. They were like, "We're going full send." Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to see what I was made of, I guess.
Okay.
So before I started, I had a meeting with Devin from Impact, and he casually mentioned something about a workshop coming up, and I had to pause him and say, Devin, I'm sorry, but I don't actually know what you're talking about with this workshop. And so he got excited because he got to be the guy to tell me all about this. And he was flying up to Winnipeg in order to help us out with this workshop where we were going to then create just as many videos as we could. And it was happening on a very specific date. So we had no opportunity to kind of be like, okay, ease your way into that. It was just going to happen. So then from day one of starting here, that those 2 days were my goal. So it was a combination of getting to know everybody at the company, getting to know what this company really does, and getting to understand the ask you answer method of creating videos. And then applying all of that and then trying to create as many videos as we could. So basically, I just went through our website and I said, okay, what videos belong on every page here? And I made my list. And then I understood that we also had like all the bio videos, the 80% videos, and like all these other ones that are a part of the ask you answer method. I then started divvying everything up. I was like, okay, this person's going to have to do this. This person's going to have to do that. I actually asked all the sales team to rate their comfortability talking about a subject on a scale of 1 to 5, and I tried to give everybody I only gave people video subjects that they thought were a 5 out of 5 or maybe a 4 out of 5, because I didn't really have time to be in the room filming with them and trying to get them to remember something about a subject. I need them to just step in front of the camera and talk. So right. I gave them all their little script outline.
You can't be doing like multiple takes and trying to like lose time. Yeah, your schedule's tight. Yeah. So that's clever. Okay.
Yeah, the schedule was basically everything was timed down to the minute, and if you started running over, then we were in trouble. So we had it all scheduled out. I got them all the script outlines, and then Devin came up, and he was actually only here for a day of shooting. So we compacted as many of those as we could. And in order to maximize it, what I did was I created a bunch of just like rudimentary questions about our products. So what's the difference between a lift and a ramp in a wheelchair van? Threw all those into cue cards, and then when people were done their actual videos, I just started handing them cue cards so they could read the question off of and answer the question in a minute or less. So that way, when I had everybody here, when I had the time and everything set up, we just were able to run through everything as fast as we could. It was probably the most stressful and hectic 2 days that I had, possibly in my professional career. And looking back on it, I'm kind of almost surprised that I was able to pull it off. But I basically now have enough videos to edit. I could never shoot again, and I'd have enough videos to go for almost an entire year at this point.
Wow. Well, that you get a clap. Bravo. That's amazing. Really, that's truly amazing. There were some key things that you said in there that really resonated with me, and it's so true because in my experiences, and I think for a lot of people that are, they ask you answer videographers, trust is key. So you said getting to know your team was like the first step. It was like, I'm new to this company. I got to get to know all these people quickly, build trust, build a rapport. And then I loved what you said, the second piece about scaling, like 1 out of 5, how do you feel about the subject so that you can really feel confident? Because if they know the subject, that's half the battle. It's like if they can get on the camera, they feel comfortable knowing what they're talking about, you'll be able to really crank out a lot of content quickly instead of having things hold you up, or it takes extra time and extra takes and things like that. So just really cool takeaways there. Thank you for sharing. And I think another good segue here is talking about Devin. So Devin is one of our coaches and trainers here at Impact. He's an awesome guy. He's a fellow videographer. He's got a ton of video experience. What was it like working with him and having his guidance and coaching as you were coming into this new company and having to film all this stuff and having him there day of? Can you tell us a little bit about that experience with Devin?
Absolutely invaluable. Like, Devin is a wealth of knowledge, and um, kind of between. So I spent a lot of my time either meeting with Devin or Mandy with Impact, and both of them are absolutely incredible videographers who truly understand this method. And so I can bounce ideas off them. I can go to them with anything. I can tell them what I'm struggling with, and they're going to be able to help me. Specifically, though, looking at that day that he was here, just if I started running into a hiccup, it was probably something he's already experienced. And so he was able to quickly guide us and get us back on track and then hand the reins over back to me again. So I don't know if we would have been able to pull it off without him. I think there were certain parts of it, especially as I go back through footage and I can hear his voice off camera, kind of guiding people back on track. Um, yeah, I think having somebody who knows video really well and who knows this methodology really well, really, it's the reason we were able to pull that off. And I don't think we'd be where we are without people like him and Mandy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Shout out to Devin and Mandy. Can you talk to us a little bit too? So you had this 2-day extravaganza, filming a ton of content, getting a lot of videos where it set you up for almost the entire year with content, which is great. But what's the process look like today? So like fast forward to today, what's it like day to day filming, and can you just walk us through a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah. So right now our goal is always 2 to 3 videos coming out per week. And my internal goal is I never want to run out of a backlog. So I created this incredible backlog over those 2 days. And the worst thing I could possibly do is now just hide in the corner of the office and edit and never talk to anybody and never end up with anything else to add to that backlog. So we have started, what we're doing is like leading these sessions with the sales team where we get them to pitch us ideas. We listen to the problems that they're having with the sales, where they think they could really use content, and taking that and we start putting it into, we use Asana as our task manager. And so we put it all into Asana, and then I go through and I vet everything, figure out what needs to be done, and I move it into different projects and start just moving it down the pipeline. So once I have the idea, I go through, I script it, and then I go back to the sales team and I go, or specifically the person that is going to be on camera, start working with them to make sure that they're comfortable with the subject matter, make sure that my research actually lines up with theirs, and I just take them through it, and then we end up back in this room to film it, and then it just goes into the backlog, and basically I'll get to it. I'll get to it when I get to it. At the end of the day, I do have a massive backlog still.
That's great. That's really great. And that's the goal, is to create a backlog. And for the viewers out there that don't know, a backlog is videos that are finished or very close to being finished that you can publish when ready, or when you need to schedule them, so that you have a little bit of a cushion or a safety net. We do the same thing here at Impact, and I get very nervous when the backlog isn't full. It doesn't have a lot of videos in it. So I can relate with what you're saying there. Yeah. So for businesses out there that maybe don't know a ton about the ask you answer, right? Or for businesses that are afraid of cost or afraid to bring on a videographer or whatever the case may be, what would you say to them to empower them or to get them excited about making this investment? Because it's really an opportunity.
So I remember I saw a clip recently from Kevin O'Leary, and he was asked something about like what the most valuable job in the world is right now. And his answer was, if you'd asked me this 3 years ago, I would have told you to go into engineering, because engineers are always in need.
Mm-hmm.
But that answer changed as the world changed. And today, the most valuable job in the world to him is a videographer. Finding somebody who can tell a story through video for your business is the most valuable thing that you can do. Um, we're all spending our time online more than ever. We're consuming more videos than ever. It, in a way, it's kind of, you know, it, the story that you tell from your business is the way that people are going to perceive you. And so if you can find a way to tell that story from your own voice and in a way that captivates people, then that's going to be memorable to people forever. I think there was a stat like you're 22 times as likely to remember a fact if it's wrapped up in a story. So finding a way to tell that story that includes something about your business, whether it's something about your product or your history or whatever it is, and telling that through a story is going to stick in people's brains so much more than if you just put on your website some random fact about your product and don't give it to them in a digestible way. I also think the other thing is just sit down and think about the way that you look into products yourself. Personally, I would always rather watch a video on a product than I would to sit down and read a blog or go through an entire website or whatever it might
Totally.
be.
Yeah, me too.
Um, I'm biased, obviously. This is what I do. So I like watching videos, but I think most people are like that these days. And I don't want to discredit the work that our content creator here does, or the content creators anybody does with the incredible blogs that are being put out there. It still is a really, really valuable part of your business. But if you sit down and you look at the way that you personally consume stuff on the internet these days, it's probably video based. And so if that's the way that you're consuming things, that's the way the world's consuming things. And so you need to be in front of that. And I think maybe 1% of companies actually have an in-house videographer today. Might be a little bit higher than that now. But if you can be in that 1% and you can be ahead of the curve, it's crazy to think that you could still be ahead of the curve starting today, but you can be. So if you can be ahead of the curve, especially the first one in your industry to do it, you're setting the standard and you're the one that everybody's looking to of what's coming next. You're the one that everyone's looking to as the expert in your field.
Extremely well said. I don't think I could have said that better myself. It's so true. And it does seem like you might be bandwagoning, like a lot of companies are starting to get into this, but it's actually a lot smaller than you think. And a lot of companies still outsource their video production and use external production companies, which isn't a bad thing. We're not saying that that's a problem, but to bring it in-house and to have somebody that's part of your team that lives and breathes the company culture and the mission, I do think it changes the outcomes for the better. It really does.
And I think that, you know, if you want to talk about cost, yeah, there's a high initial cost to hire a videographer, all the equipment that you need, and everything else. But the cost of constantly hiring out externally is so much higher over the long term compared to just having somebody and putting the money in at the upfront and then letting them do their job. You're going to end up saving a lot of money in the long run. And like you said, it also has a lot to do with just having somebody who understands the business as deeply as an employee can. You're never going to get that from an external source.
Totally. Yeah. And most production companies aren't going to be able to shoot 65 videos in 2 days. So just saying.
Or they're going to charge you a lot more money.
Exactly. So I got one more question for you. I'm curious, what's a piece of content, a video that you created that is your favorite, that like you're most proud of, or maybe something that like performed exceptionally well and drove business? Or could you just share something along those lines with us? I'm just curious.
Yeah, my favorite piece of content that I've done here so far is the customer journey video from Joplin.
Okay.
It was technically a part of our American division, Avan Mobility, but the getting to hear the stories of the people who were actually on the ground using the van and providing care to uninsured people in the United States. Like it it was so moving, and it really drove home to me the importance of what it is that we're doing here. And so then being able to tell that story and tell it in a way that benefits our company, really, like, I think that editing that probably took 2 to 3 weeks, because I wanted to be so careful and so meticulous that I didn't want to mess up their story. These people were so open with me,
Mhm.
and they were so willing to share their story that it was important to me to be able to tell it properly. Um, and then for it to, at the end of the day, still drive home the value of our product, the value of our medical vans. I mean, that's basically all you could ever ask for.
Absolutely. No, I can relate so much because truthfully, that's my favorite thing to do too. I love shooting customer journey videos because you get to go meet these people in real life. You get to see the work that your company does in action. And there is a responsibility to it to tell their story honestly and in a way that's going to convey what they do in a very compelling way for other people to see it that know nothing about them. So I can definitely relate. Jaeden, thank you so much for your time and for being on the show. Before we wrap, is there anything else you want to say for videographers or for businesses out there that are thinking about getting into the Ask You Answer or hiring a videographer? Any last words?
Just start shooting.
Start
Like
shooting.
just start shooting.
I love it. I love it. If you can, before we go, can you look at the camera and just tell people how they get in touch with you if they have any questions or any follow-ups, how they can reach you?
Yeah, I guess the best place for that would probably be LinkedIn. It's just Jaeden LeClaire. Assuming it'll be in the show notes underneath. But you can always send me a message on there.
Excellent. Again, thank you for your time. I'm going to go check out that customer journey video right after this. And for everybody out there watching, thank you for joining. We'll see you on the next one.